And so it was at that point that we started this whole journey of figuring out what it is we could do in life to be more consistent, to grab the principle of consistency and apply it in our lives. Oftentimes, or actually most of the time, it's introduced when you introduce a physical activity, right? Or an athletic event or something like that, where you have winning streaks. So the act of streaking, in our definition, is the act of setting up winning streaks in your life to be successful at whatever you choose to do consistently every day.
Welcome to the Kindness Factor podcast, sharing life-changing personal stories of the transformational impact of deep kindness. Hosted by
Dr. Elia, the happiness doctor.
And Randy McNeely, Captain Kindman. Good morning, my friends. Welcome to another episode of the Kindness Factor podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Randy McNeely, Captain Kindman. On this podcast, we share transformative stories of kindness, because kindness delivers the love that reaches hearts and changes lives. And we really appreciate you taking the time to be with us today. And just as a quick reminder, it's a big help for us to be able to get great guests and expand our kindness reach across the globe. If you'll take the time to like and subscribe to this channel if you're watching on YouTube, or if you're listening on your favorite podcast platform, if you'll take just a minute to stop by and leave us a review or even give us love through some stars. Thank you so much again for joining us today, and we look forward to introducing you to our next amazing guest. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Welcome to another episode of the Kindness Factor podcast. I'm Randy McNeely, Captain Kindman, joined by my amazing co-host, Dr. Gourgouris, the happiness doctor. Good morning, Dr. Elia.
Thank you, Randy, and thank you, Jeffrey. So excited to have you on the show.
Thank you. So glad to be here.
We're really excited to have this good man, Jeff Downs, with us today. You know, just a little bit about Jeff. He's the author of an amazing book called Streaking Mastery. He is the streaking master, not that kind of streaking, but the consecutive events, right? Keeping track of those things. And he's a podcast host, the Streaking Mastery podcast. He's also the creator of an amazing app for streaking. And rather than me going on and on about Jeff, I'm going to let him tell you more about himself, because he's the one you want to hear about, not me, or hear from, I should say. So Jeff, thank you so much for being in the house with us. We're grateful to have you, and just looking forward to a great conversation.
I am so grateful to be with the both of you. I mean, kindness is something that is going to change the world, and to be here with you on the Kindness podcast and to be talking about what I love so much, which is consecutiveness in kindness, and how you do that and how you set it up, is something that I'm excited to explore with the both of you and talk with the both of you about. Randy, you and I go back to college. That's where we met before, and it was fantastic. And then there was a chance meeting that we had in where was the airport? What
Dallas,
airport was it?
Dallas Airport.
It was Dallas. That's right. We were in Dallas. And I hear this voice from across the gate say, "Jeff Downs." And I look over, and there's Randy, and we hadn't seen each other in what, 10 years or something like that?
15 years probably.
Yeah, it was a long time. And I was like, first of all, impressed that he recognized me. And second of all, I was right in the middle of writing the manuscript for Streaking for the book. And you, out of the kindness of your heart, said, "Hey, can I take a look at the manuscript and offer you any suggestions?" And so that started an exchange of information back and forth that really helped to shape the whole second half of the Streaking book, which was all about who do you want to be in life. And that was something that was prompted by you, and I'll be forever grateful. And then Dr. Gourgouris, you and I didn't ever really know each other, but I knew a lot about you because of the great work that you had done with so many people who I interfaced with. And you were so wonderful at doing that. I'm just truly grateful for the opportunity to be with the both of you.
Thank you for your kind words. And it's a small world, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
I'm older than both of you guys, so I remember when I was a young kid, streaking had a whole different meaning. It's usually some crazy person running naked down the street or whatever. I'm assuming your book is not about running naked down the streets.
That is right. Yeah,
What is streaking?
It's really interesting that when we were, the whole methodology of streaks and winning streaks was something that came into being for us about 10 years ago. And 10 years ago, we were looking for ways to get more consistent with just our physical life, to be able to be more healthy physically. And my wife ran across an article that was written about a couple that had streak run for 15 years. And being curious, to your point, Elia, is what is this all about?
Right.
We clicked on this particular article and found that it was a beautiful article about a couple that had set a streak to run at least 1 mile every single day and had done so for 15 years. And it was at that time that my wife said to me, she called me, I was on an airplane actually, or I was getting on an airplane, and she called me and she said, "Hey, do you want to start streaking with me?"
I would have been, what?
That was it too. And so it was at
Oh,
that point that we started this whole journey of figuring out what it is we could do in life to be more consistent, to grab the principle of consistency and apply it in our lives. Oftentimes, or actually most of the time, it's introduced when you introduce a physical activity, right? Or an athletic event or something like that where you have winning streaks. So the act of streaking in our definition is the act of setting up winning streaks in your life to be successful at whatever you choose to do consistently every day.
That's a fascinating concept. So Randy and I, we've never really talked about what does streaking in kindness mean? Like, or how does that, like physically, or how does that work? And how can we make that be part of our everyday life? Like that
Yeah.
kind of consistency where you create a 15-year, let's say, kindness streak.
Yes. Oh, see, now this is my favorite thing. Randy, did you have a thought?
what was I going to say? If you're looking for opportunities to be kind every day, you think about it. Every day you can do at least one thing. I've probably got a streak of at least 10 years going right now on doing
Yeah.
something kind every day.
Every single day.
But I want to hear, let's hear more about how the master of streaking would see that manifesting as far as kindness goes.
So to answer that question, I'm going to give you a little bit of methodology, and then we'll go into the question of how to set up a kindness streak because I think it's quite fascinating. So a little bit of methodology. So when my wife and I started on this streak of run or walk at least 1 mile 6 days a week, that's what we had and that's been going now for 9 years. One of the things that we started to ask ourselves is, what is it about this streak that's working for us? Why are we able to do this? What is it that makes it possible? And so we started to really delve into what are the principles of consistency, of being able to do something every day. And the first thing that we found is that in order to set up a successful winning streak, and this is going to be counterintuitive to what everyone tells anyone to do when they're striving to improve their life, set up the laughably small activity to do every day. It is so simple that there's no reason not to do it. So for my wife and I, when we set up this streak of run or walk at least 1 mile every day, well, we had been runners for a long time. So for us, running or walking a mile every day was laughably simple. And it was something that we could do really without a whole bunch of thought behind it. It was like, you know what, we can just do this. And that particular principle started to apply to other areas because here's one other thing as far as methodology is concerned. What we recognized as well is that if you could set up a physical streak, you could also set up a streak in any area of your life, your spiritual life, your social life, your family life, your professional life, wherever it was, whatever role that you had, you could set up a streak. And if you followed the principle or the laws of streaking, which are one, to make it laughably simple, two, to record that you actually did it, and three, to share it with someone. Those are the three laws of streaking that you could now set up something that you could have in your life all the time. Just like what you guys do with the Kindness podcast. You're highly consistent with it. You have it, at least one time a week. You're talking about consistency in a way that people can follow along and be able to experience and get more information on. So with streaking and with those laws in place, we then started to really work toward what it is we want to do, who we want to be. So this is the area where Randy comes in so well. He challenged us to say, are you streaking for streaking's sake? Or are you doing it for a greater, grander reason? In other words, are you just doing the activities to do the activities, or is there something else? And this set us on a whole path of recognizing that in order to become the people we want to be, we're doing activities in order to be that person. But we need to define or really intentionally and deliberately call out, who do we want to be? And so I started to look at that, and that became the formation of a B statement. This is who I want to be. And one of my B statements is I want to be a kind and compassionate friend and neighbor. And that B statement right there then leads to, okay, so what streaks am I going to incorporate in order to be a kind and compassionate neighbor? And so one of those streaks, and a streak that I have, which is to be grateful at least one time every day, to express gratitude one time every day to someone else, to a family member, to myself, whatever it is to say that I am thankful or grateful for whatever particular person at least one time every day. And so I intentionally and deliberately, and I have it in the app, the My Streaks app is what Randy referred to, look at that and say, okay, what am I going to do to be grateful today? How am I going to show that kindness and that compassion? And then I go about doing it. And it can be the smallest of things. I've sent little tiny texts to people thanking them for a contribution or for what they've done for me in my life. Or I've sent to my boys, here's a very simple one. Thank you for taking the trash out. It was, it's that simple that we can make on a regular basis. And what that then does is help us to set our mind to being intentional and deliberate about kindness.
You make it sound like streaking is actually pretty easy.
It is, actually, if you do it, it's pretty simple.
And Randy, he's right. You and I have been doing the podcast now for 2 or 3 years, and we've been very consistent. So you and I, my friend, have been streaking apparently together.
Yes, you have.
Hello. Oh,
Yeah, okay. So, Jeff, I love the choice of words that you put out there. Intentional and deliberate. Because that's what it's been. We hear the term, and I talk about this probably too often because the Random Act of Kindness Foundation probably doesn't like me very much, but we hear the term random acts of kindness all the time. The reality is there are no random acts of kindness. What there are is random opportunities to give kindness. Every time we go and give kindness to somebody, it's because we choose to do it. Nobody's forcing us to do it. We choose to do it. So it's not a random thing. It's an intentional and a deliberate choice that we make. But there's all kinds of random opportunities to give kindness. And just thinking about it, one of the streaks you could create is every day, I'm going to look for at least one random opportunity to give kindness, and I'm going to do it.
Here's where you talk about the Random Act of Kindness Foundation. I think about people when they talk about habits. And this is something that has been in this is a little pet peeve of mine. All right. And because I've studied enough about habits and how habits are defined, that I believe that the word habit is misleading to individuals. And here's how, and I'm going to relate it back to what you were saying about random acts of kindness. James Clear book, Atomic Habits, is one of the most popular that's out there. And then you also have Charles Duhigg, who wrote The Power of Habit.
Yeah.
Both fascinating books. I love The Power of Habit more than I like Atomic Habits. But it's interesting because they both define a habit as something that you do involuntarily, almost automatically, without thinking.
Hello, my wonderful friends. If you could step into the shoes of a kindness hero today, would you want to? I believe that most of you would, and here's an easy way to do that. Simply watch this little video clip by Kindness Worldwide, and if it resonates, stop by their website today, www.kindnessworldwide.org, and make a donation to support their wonderful mission to bring cultures of kindness to communities throughout the world. And then feel free to share it with your friends and family. Thank you for your support.
When a wallet was returned just moments after it was lost, a purpose was found. This one act of kindness inspired the formation of the nonprofit Kindness Worldwide to create a culture of kindness in communities throughout the world. Kindness Week Worldwide mobilized the entire community in York, Pennsylvania, featuring initiatives and playbook programs including blood drives, kindness cards, K-12 and college students embracing kindness, and an innovative means of community policing, kindness citations. If something so magical can happen in York, Pennsylvania, the same and other inspirations can happen anywhere and everywhere. Our Screen Scenes initiative featuring the Kindness Factor will showcase these many stories of kindness. Let's include your community among them. Kindness is the heartbeat of the world. Together, with your support, we can make all its hearts beat as one.
Now,
Just
second nature, right? That's our
right,
second nature. That's what it is.
second nature. And here's where my pet peeve is. Being kind will never be second nature. Now, some may say, well, hold on just a second, and you guys may even disagree with me on this. But what I look at is to be kind goes against natural tendencies. And therefore, the reason why I have a streak is because I need to be intentional and deliberate about it every single day. Now, here's where habit comes in, because I'm not totally poo-pooing habits. Don't hear me as saying that. Habit comes in for motor skills. For when, for example, the classic example that I like to use is someone learning to type. When they're learning to type on a keyboard, whether it be two fingers or five, or four fingers and a thumb, they are having to exercise brain power to know where their fingers hit the keys until it comes to the place where the neural pathways are connected and it moves to the basal ganglia where it becomes automatic. The motor skill, I no longer have to think about where my fingers are hitting the keys. I don't have to spend a lot of brain power there. And that's important. That's significant, because where I want to spend my brain power is on consciously thinking about what I'm writing or what I'm doing or how I'm presenting myself and doing that. And so the automatic motor skills I don't have to think about. So in the whole area of random acts of kindness, there's random opportunities, and what I have to do is deliberately, intentionally think about taking advantage of those. It will never be automatic.
It
Interesting
really
way to think.
shouldn't in some ways, because if you're activating your heart, it shouldn't be automatic that way. I mean, it's great to be Captain Kindman, and Randy really personifies kindness. I try to do some act of kindness towards somebody on a daily basis, and that's kind of like a micro habit, if you will. But the intention behind it is the sweetness, where I can type things without looking or drive the car without paying attention or whatever. There's no sweetness that it's just a functional thing. I need to
Yes,
type an email
that's
and
a
I need
that's
to
a great
drive
way
to
to
the
say it. It's
market.
functional. Yeah.
But when it comes to the heart, that's the sweet spot, right? Because our heart, and we know when we do perform acts of kindness, we get serotonin and dopamine, and those great chemicals start pouring forth. And it's a wonderful thing for the giver, the receiver, and those are witnessing those acts of kindness. So I really like your take. At first I'm like, where's Jeff going with this? But then it's like it made sense in the end.
It's interesting. I have a mixed response to it. I agree with what you said, but at the same time, it's like my natural response when I see someone in pain or in having sorrow. I said my first natural response is to extend compassion. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you're going through that. I I don't have to stop and think about that. That's just how I react to it. And so now, is that the way it is all the time? No, that's true. Sometimes there are times when I sit and I have to stop and think, okay, I need to be more kind in this situation. But a lot of times, like, for example, a friend of mine who called and said that he was having to deal with some kind of emergency the other day, And my first question, my first response is, "Oh, is there anything I can do to help? What can I do?" But so in those kind of situations, I don't know. It's an interesting to think about. Now you've given me something to stop and consider, Jeff.
Yeah. Here's one of the things that I would say on that. It's not that the task becomes automatic, but that the way that you respond has been exercised for such a long time, that weight is easier to lift. It's like going to the weight room. When you go into the weight room and you start lifting, the bar itself can be very heavy. However, you always have to choose whether or not you're going to lift the bar. Now, that bar may be lighter through time simply for the reason that you've built up your strength, you've built up your kindness muscle, and therefore it gets lighter through time so that your first response is kindness because that's how but you're not programmed that way like a computer program. It's you've actually chosen to be that type of a person. And because of that choice and because of your deliberate intentional action of looking for opportunities to be kind, then that becomes more of, and we could call it natural. But what I would say is that it's more of your divine self that is now taking over the natural tendencies that we have. And I've seen this a lot. There's a saying that I really like, and I wish I had the actual author of the saying right now. I'm going to give it to you, and we'll have to look it up later. But it's I have found that to act my way into a new way of thinking is easier than to think my way into a new way of
I
acting.
love it, and it's so true. It's so
Yeah.
true. Because in the end, it doesn't matter what we know. What matters what do we do with what we know.
Yes,
That's
exactly.
it.
So
Jeff. Oh, go ahead, Randy.
I was going to say, so normally we start out the podcast by asking you, to share a story with us about some situation that has been pivotal in your life, someone who has been a kindness hero that stepped in and did something that inspired you and continues to impact you in your efforts to be kind. And I would love to have you share. Do you have a story, Jeff, that you could
Oh,
share?
I have several. First story goes all the way back to my freshman year in high school. Okay. So this is the first story where kindness really impacted me in a significant way. I was a pretty rowdy, wild freshman in high school. I didn't have a lot of focus or direction in life, and I didn't really know what it was, who I was, or what I wanted to do. I just know that I like to have fun and I like to play around a lot.
That makes a
I
lot
was
of sense
invited.
now that your book is called Streaking. Now
Yeah,
it all makes
it
sense now,
all
Jeff.
comes together.
Now we know. Now we know that.
That's exactly right. So my friend asked me if I'd like to join the marching band. I said I didn't have anything better to do, so I said sure, why not? One of the what they needed me for was I happen to be tall. You can't tell on video, but I'm 6'5" and I'm about 200 pounds, and so I'm a tall, pretty big person. And so they said, "Here, you're tall, you're a big person. Carry the biggest bass drum." I'm like, okay, that's what I'll do. So I started carrying the biggest bass drum. Well, band became this place where I could really show off and have a lot of fun and really distract everyone from what it was that we were supposed to be doing there. I became a real pain to our teachers and our instructors. And I became one of those individuals that they hated to see come on the field. Well, there was after one particular practice that I had been particularly awful and distracting pretty much everyone around me from what it was we needed to do and accomplish because our band director had in his mind that we could be a state championship marching band. And I had in my mind, well, we can have as much fun as possible and it really doesn't matter. Well, there was one instructor, his name was Tom Anderson. And after this particularly after this particular practice where I was quite wild and rowdy, he came up and I had the biggest bass drum on. He came up and he put his arm around me. And he said to me, Jeff, he said, you have so much enthusiasm and energy that I really appreciate. And if you could learn to focus that there's nothing that could stop you from accomplishing anything you want to do.
What a wonderful gift he gave you.
It was the hugest gift I've ever gotten in my life at that moment. And I've obviously thought back on it. But his kindness was seeing past what I was doing and recognizing who I could become and taking the moment to say, your energy and listen to the words that he used. He didn't say you're being rowdy, you're crazy, you're full, you're full of
Disrupting
distraction.
everybody.
Yeah, it wasn't anything. There were no unkind words. It was, you have so much energy and so much enthusiasm that if you focus it, you can accomplish anything you want to in life.
But he chose to say those things to you. He chose to
Yes.
see you in that light because he
Yes.
also could have said, you know what? I love your energy, but dude, you're way too distracting to the rest of us, so you're banished. That's also
Yes.
that was a possibility. He didn't do
Yeah.
that though.
Yeah.
But
He didn't.
you know what this makes me think of, Elia? Remember Joe Roberts and the Gus story? Joe Roberts, shared with us about how Gus saw the good in him and saw past the addict, the homeless guy, and saw, said, if you can get yourself together, you can do anything you want to do. Same kind of thing.
Yeah.
Jeff's teacher saw past the rowdy kid, the disruptor, and saw the possible, as Joe Roberts would say, he saw the possible in Jeff. And
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Tom Anderson realized that we're all made up of energy, and you are a highly energetic, entertaining, distracting young man. But if he's totally right, if you take that energy and you focus it, there's nothing you can't do.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people don't have your energy.
Yeah.
It's right. They have other skills or they have other strengths, but that's not one of them. So somebody that was born and has that kind of innate energy around, um, first of all, they're a lot of fun. Are you sure you're not a part Greek? Because I'm starting to think you're not related somehow.
I I do have Italian heritage out of
Ah,
Sicily.
there you go. That would
So
explain it.
yes,
Okay,
that's it.
I will accept that. Yes, Italian.
So
Hey, yeah.
just to put the cap on that story, 4 years later, I auditioned and was made the drum major of that band. And we, in my junior year, we won state, and in my senior year, we lost state by just a half a point. That was it. But it was that's the course of that, and it changed my life forever. To today, and I could tell three more stories on people that have kindly put their arm around me and said, if you focus that energy or if you take this in that direction, it helps you. And the kindness that people, in order to be that type of kind, I think have to be able to see past what you are on the outside, just like what you're describing, Randy, and see into your heart. And that's one of the reasons why I go back to a streak, which is that's really what the streak is there for me to do, is to see past who they are and into their heart and be kind in that regard. Because they're everyone who I have the opportunity to interact with, if I give them a chance and if I see to their heart, I'm going to see an amazing person, no matter what they look like on the outside.
Now we're ready for your three truth bombs, pearls of wisdom. Let's go. One, two, three.
All
For
right, one, two,
audience,
three.
listen
Here's the
up.
three,
Listen
three,
up, audience.
three pearls of wisdom as far as kindness. One, set a kindness streak, and that streak can be something that is as simple as being grateful every day, looking for an opportunity of kindness every day. We have one person in the My Streaks app, and you can follow anyone in the My Streaks app that has 1,732 days of sending at least one thoughtful text every day. So that is powerful kindness. That's number one. Number two, look for people's heart, not for what you see on the outside, because their heart is valuable and there's treasures in there. And the third thing is listen to these two guys because they are fantastic at being able to communicate what kindness is all about.
Thank you for your kindness and thank you for your enthusiasm. Thank you for your storytelling and thank you for uh, giving the audience the opportunity to look at streaking in a whole different light. So
Yes.
we appreciate that. Hey, where can our audience find you? Like, what's the best way to get a hold of you, or just to connect with you or to follow you?
Yeah, so the My Streak, so we have the My Streaks web or My Streaks app website. My Streaks app, downloaded from the Apple App Store or from Google Play, is a great place. I post a lot in there as far as what my streaks are, and also we have now over 30,000 registered users in the My Streaks app that record their streaks in any category every day. We also have the Streaking podcast where I interviewed Randy. This is, I think, what was it, a year and a half ago that we talked on
It's
this?
been about 3 years ago now.
Was it 3 years ago? Oh
Yeah,
my goodness.
yeah, it's been a
Time
while.
to come
Time
back
to come
on, I
back.
think. We need to get both of you back on.
Oh yeah, yeah. You
Yeah.
definitely need to have Dr. Gourgouris, man. He is the king of podcasts. He's very good. But
Yeah.
Jeff, we cannot express our appreciation deeply enough. Thank you so much for joining us today and for sharing such great information with our audience. Thank you to our audience. We thank you for taking the time to listen to this today. You know, you didn't have to jump on and listen, but you did, and we really appreciate it. We want to just leave you with a couple of reminders. Take a few minutes every day, and particularly today, take a few minutes after listening to this and stop and think, okay, and write down these things. What did I learn? How is it applicable to me? And what am I going to do about it? How am I going to put it into action? And I can promise you that if you'll do that, it'll make a difference. You can start a streak. Start a streak today. And we just take the time to do that, and it'll be a blessing to your life. And as you go forward in your day, remember that with kindness,
Everybody wins.
thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.